All right, folks, let's move on with the functions. Now, today I want us to look at inverse functions, but let us define what does inverse mean. What is an inverse? And if we have 2, we multiply 2 with an inverse and we get what? We get 1, right? And this can be written as 2 to the power negative 1. I think you remember going back to exponents, remember? Okay, now let us look at what I have here. Or let's go to the definition first. The inverse of a function, the function is what? The function is f at x. If the function is f at x, it is the function that undoes what f at x has done. So in f at x, I added 4 to x. So that means what would be, and this is how we represent it, okay? Oh, sorry, not there. It's right there, okay? So what does that mean? What will be the inverse of this? Here you add 4 to x, so here you are going to minus 4. The inverse of a function f at x is written as f negative 1, and then the x is, it follows. So it's not x negative 1, it's f, which is negative 1, okay? So let's go to this one. Give me this one. If f at x is x minus 5, I subtracted 5, so then the inverse here would be x plus 5. So if I give you 5, the inverse will be you giving me 5, okay? All right, so what about this one? If you multiply by 2, so that means the inverse of that, what did you do to x? So you divide by 2, right? So it says x divided by 2, right? So division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, addition, subtraction. Let's look at this, and you can use a flow chart as well. So if this is our function, what is happening here? Here we multiplied by, we had x in the beginning, right? And then we multiplied by 3. Okay, let me just write, we multiplied by 3, and what did we do? We added 1, and what did we do? We divided by 4, and what did we end up with? 3x plus 1 divided by 4. Now, let's start from x. Let's start this x. Now the x is here, and you are going back. Here, what did you do? Here, what is the inverse of division? Multiply by 4. The inverse of plus, minus 1. The inverse of times divided by 3. And what will that end up as? So that will be x multiplied by 4, which is 4x, minus 1 divided by 3, and that would be your f. So that will be my inverse right there. So this is the function, and that's the inverse, okay? Now let's do this one. There is another way as well. We can do it algebraically, all right? Now listen to the trick here. I want to do the same thing, but then in a function like this, how am I going to do it? I know my f at x is y, so I'm going to put my y there. Y is equal to 3x plus 1 divided by 4. But the inverse of x is y, and the inverse of y is x. So I will swap x for y, right? So I'll say x is equal to 3y plus 1 divided by 4. Now, I will try to make y the subject of the formula. First of all, you swap x and y, and second step, you solve for y. So from here, how do I solve for y? So I'll cross multiply. That will be 3y plus 1 is equal to 4x, right? I want y now, right? Because the function is defined by y. Remember here we said the inverse is also a function, okay? Now, that will be 4x minus 1, 3y, 3y is equal to 4x minus 1 over 3. But this y, So therefore, that will be the function, because this is the inverse function, I mean. That is your inverse function. So it is the inverse function. Don't forget, it is the inverse function. So I want to end up with y because it is also a function. But then to write it as an inverse function so that I'm not going to confuse this with that. That is the function and that is the inverse function. All right, wait for examples then.